Hello, everyone. Welcome to CPE 517-WS Digital Computer System Architecture. This is the last part of Lecture 5, which we talk about cache optimizations. So there are millions, I would say, different types of cache optimizations, but we sort of cannot cover all of them. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to cover 11 very advanced cache optimizations. Some are aims to reduce hit time, some increases cache bandwidth, some reduces miss penalty, some reduces missing rate, some reduces miss penalty or miss rate about parallelism. Okay. So the first three are reducing hit time. So for fast hit time, the small and simple caches. That's what I mentioned at the very beginning. Cache is faster because it's smaller, right? So we use smaller and simpler cache. Definitely helps us for a faster hit time. So small cache can help hit time since smaller memory takes less time to index. That's why typically even different generations of AMD processors, they maintain the same sized cache, L1 cache. For L2 cache, they also want it to be small enough to fit on cache with the processor, avoids time penalty of going off the chip to main memory for L2 cache. Well, we can use simple direct mapping. This is also what we mentioned in the earlier of this lecture, basically last part. We said if we have more blocks in a set, then we're going to need more electronics and more comparison logics, right? So if we use simple direct mapping, the checking of tag with the data transfer can be done in parallel because no matter it's a hit or not, we're going to only have this one single block to transmit the data, right? So the access, and also we have this CACTI models, which is a cache model. 4.0, we can see that the median ratio of access time relative to the direct mapped caches are getting longer when you have more ways, right? This is also very straightforward. This tells us smaller and simpler cache helps hit times. We can also get a faster hit time via weight prediction. How to combine fast hit time of direct mapped and have the lower conflict miss of two-way set associativity? As we know, direct map is bad. It's good because you have the single, it's a simpler and comparison indexing electronics. And you can also, in parallel, do the transmission of the data as well as tag comparison, but it's also bad because it's gonna have a very high conflict misses, right? So what we was trying to say here is, can we combine both benefits of direct map and two-way set associativity? Cache. So what we can do is we can do weight prediction. We keep extra bits in the cache to predict the way or the block when they're set. The multiplexer is set early to select desirable block. Only one tag comparison is performed because we did that prediction, right? If we had a miss, then we come back because the other block down definitely be the one. If we do not, then we earn, right? So this is the same. That's why we say, okay, we can either earn more, so we directly go to the same performance as direct map because we don't do any tag block choosing. If we had a miss, then we don't have to do block choosing as well because another block of this two-way set associative cache would be the block of interest. So either way, we either gain or we didn't lose. We didn't gain anything, but we didn't lose. Okay. The third way is about fast hit times via trace cache. This is more for the instruction. Okay, so the goal is to find more instruction level parallelism. Basically, how do we avoid translate from x86 instruction to macro operations, right? And the trace cache is used to Pentium for, and it's a very popular topic in 1990s. What is the problem? Basically, when we are trying to execute different instructions, if some of the basic blocks is prediction taken, some of them predict not taken, then there would be some problems to finish the instruction fetch in a single cycle, right? Because some taken, some not taken, there's a branch divergence. So what we do is we introduce a trace cache. Basically, we cache the traces so that when you have predicted taken, probably we already cached, or not taken, we already cached the instruction, then we have a better performance, right? However, this is very complicated, and it was abandoned, I think, in late 1990s, and it's popularly used in Pentium 4. Increasing cache bandwidth by pipeline. I think this is relatively straightforward. Basically, we can pipeline the cache access to maintain the bandwidth, probably get a better, higher latency, but it's always the cache is fully utilized, right? The instruction cache access pipeline stages, like we have Pentium Pro through Pentium 3, and then Pentium 4. Greater penalty on missed predicted branches. And also we're going to have more clock cycles between the issue of the load and the use of the data because of the pipeline. Okay. We can also introduce non-blocking cache, right? Non-blocking cache or lock-free cache allows data cache to continue to supply cache hits during a miss. Basically, this requires bits on register or out of order execution, or requires multi-bank memories. Hit and miss reduces the effective miss penalty by working during miss. Because when you even have a miss, we don't block the cache, we can supply the data probably even in time when you're handling the miss, right? It may further lower the effective miss penalty by overlapping multi-misses. Significantly increases the complexity of the cache controller, as there can be multiple outstanding memory access waiting for the missed cache. Requires multiple memory banks, otherwise we cannot support the hit and the miss, because when you have a miss, you immediately go and fetch it, and you can still serve it on time, right? That requires a lot of banks, because otherwise, if you have multiple misses, then you're probably going to have a problem. Is why? Because you're probably going to have to serialize multiple misses. So in this case, we need multiple memory banks so that we don't have to serialize the requests. Like Pentium, I think this is Pentium, it's not Pentium. Pro allows 4 outstanding memory misses to be served simultaneously. Okay. Increasing cache bandwidth via multiple banks. Rather than treat the cache as a single monolithic block, we divided it into multiple banks, just such that multiple accesses can be served simultaneously. This is very popular. It's used today, right now. Banking works best when access naturally spread themselves across banks. Mapping of addresses to banks definitely affects the performance of the system, right? It could be we have multiple banks, but all the accesses go to the same bank. Simple mapping that typically works well, like a sequential interleaving. And this is also a very popular technique in like GPU, graphics processing unit, for those of you who knows that. We call the shared memory bank conflict, right? So spreading block addresses sequentially across blocks is very important. If there are 4 banks, bank 0 has all the blocks whose address is modulo 4 is 0, bank 1 has that for modular equals to 1. Similarly for bank 2 and bank 3. So when we like in the first 6 techniques, we try to either make the hate time shorter or increase the bandwidth, but there are chances we have to miss no matter what. So when we have the miss, then how do we reduce the miss penalty? We can do early restart and a critical word first. Basically, we don't wait until the full block to arrive before we restart the CPU, right? If we see it's a miss, okay, let's quickly retrieve the data of interest and send it to CPU, and let the CPU continue execution. Well, when the CPU continues execution, we also want to make sure that the critical word comes first. Like we are on like a miss penalty of a data, but the CPU execution might waiting for the first word, the critical word first, right? So we load that specific first word first, okay? And then this is actually very popular for long blocks, like block is huge. Then we probably have to fetch the entire block to take a lot of time. So what we can do is we can fetch the first critical ones and give it to CPU, let CPU run, and then we transmit in the remaining of the block, right? We can also merge a write buffer to reduce miss penalty. Okay, we use write buffer to cache the write, the missed write, right? Go to the memory. So if buffer contains modified blocks, the address can be checked to see if the new data matches the address. If so, the new data are combined with that entry. So it's like multiple writes combined to a single write. Definitely improves performance. We can also increase this block size of the write for write-through caches so that we can have more merges, right? This is actually used in Sun Niagara processor, among many others, using write merging. Even today's operating system uses write merging. Reducing misses by compiler optimizations. This is some very miracle. So basically, we don't have to do anything in hardware. It's in the software. We just have to do some manipulations. We can gain as high as 75% higher, like reduce the cache miss. That's a lot, like several times, right? How do we do that? We can reorder the procedures in memory so as to reduce the cache misses. We can profiling to see what is the cache conflicts. We can like merge arrays, improve spatial locality by single array of compound elements of 2 arrays. We can do loop interchange, changing nesting of loops to access data in order they are stored in memory. We can do loop fusion, like we combine 2 independent loops that have the same looping and some variables overlap. We can do blocking to improve the temporal locality by accessing blocks of data repeatedly versus going the entire column or entire row. These techniques are actually very popular, used even today, okay? So please pay attention. Let's go through all of them. Merging arrays like this. Assuming we want to access value and k, which is like key value pair, right? Like a map. So we do is we access one k and use that k to access the value and use another k to access another value. If we store them in 2 memory address, it's like this, okay? Assume this is the key, this is value. Key value. So when we are accessing the first entry of the key, we're probably also going to access the value of the first entry, right? So you can see this is a miss of this one and a miss of this one as well, because they are far apart. In the second case, like this one, after merging, what do we do is we do value, 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 value. Okay. And then do K. Okay. Okay, like this, right? Because this is one merged struct. This is another. This is another. Okay. So in this case, when we access this first K, the value is stored right after this. So they are in the same cache line, cache block. So we have a better cache hit. Okay. Similarly for the second one, the third one. So this is why we have merged array example is better. It's very important. If you are writing your code today, you can use it. Okay. Loop interchange. Loop interchange is like assuming we have a two-dimensional array. Okay. Draw it out. So, and assuming this is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, okay, etc., etc. This is I, J, right? Because this is row oriented. So what do we do here is we first, assuming we don't have this, okay, this is not really needed. Okay, it's not needed, okay? So we do J equals to 0 and then we cross all the i's, right? So the first, this one, access like this way, okay? And then this way. But data is stored like this. So we always have to have a cache miss every time. So what we do is we swap it. Like we access row wise, right? So basically what we do is we this wise, row wise in this case. This definitely gives much better performance because it's always in the cache because the data is stored. The layout of the memory is row-wise, right? Okay. Move on. Loop fusion. Okay. Loop fusion gives you prefetch benefits. Like before is like this, right? So you have I equals to 0 to n and j equals to 0 to n. You do this, and then you have another I and j again. So instead of accessing this A, B, C once and second time, you access all of them once because when you access A is already in cache. You can always use it. C is always use it. Can always use it, right? So even you probably increase a little bit of dependency, but the performance of data, C, A, these are cached, right? That's very straightforward. So blocking is another very important concept. All right. How do we see that? Assuming in this case, what we want to do is we want to do the matrix multiplication, right? In this case. So you have two matrices. So what you do right now is you fetch one row and one column, one row of y. Okay, let me draw it here. Assume this is y. This is z. Sorry. Losing the. Okay. So what do you do? Oh, come back. Is you access one row of y and one column of z. Probably what do you accessed in this iteration, and then next iteration gonna be this one, right? Like this. This is how we do it. Oh wait, not really. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do all of those z's, right? This is how we do it. And then when we come back, we're gonna do the second one and then access all of those again, right? So this is gonna be a problem because all the accesses of the row and the column are never being reused. So what do we do here is like this, smarter way. We store them together. So we do this with this multiplication and this multiplication and all of them again. And this one also with all of them again. So all of them are cached because they're in memory, right? So when you do the first row, multiply this, it's loaded. And second row of this tail, multiply this, it's already cached. Okay, so we always can cache it. Okay, I guess I have to move on. Blocking example. All right, so this is the blocking example. So how we do it? The blocking tuning, blocking size can also be very complicated. Reducing the conflict miss by blocking, right? Like we can see that conflict miss in cache not versus block size. It's not always blocks. So there's some basically sweet spot, right? The performance. Okay. Reducing missing by hardware prefetching of instruction data. This is two prefetchings. Basically, prefetching relies on how prior history is did to fetch the data, right? Typically, CPU fetches 2 blocks on miss, the request block and next consecutive block. We do have instruction prefetch and data prefetching. Pentium can prefetch data into L2 cache up to 8 streams from 8 different 4K pages. Prefetching invoked if 2 successive F2 cache misses to a page, if distance between those cache blocks is less than 256 bytes. Software prefetching is relatively straightforward. Basically, we load data into register, cache prefetching loading into cache. Special prefetching instruction can not cause faults. Issuing prefetching instructions takes time, so that's why it's costly for prefetching issues versus savings in reduced miss. Higher superscalars reduces difficulty of issue bandwidth. Right? Compiler optimizations versus memory hierarchy search. Compiler tries to figure out memory hierarchy. New approach auto tuners first runs variations of program on computer to find the best combinations of optimizations. And algorithms then produce C code to be compiled for that computer. So we do have these kind of techniques covered, right? So small cache, weight prediction, trace cache, pipeline cache access, non-blocking cache, bank, critical word first, and early restart, merging write buffer, compiler techniques to reduce the cache, hard prefetching, software compiler prefetching, or software prefetching. Some improves the hit time, some improves the bandwidth, some improves the miss penalty, some reduces the miss penalty. So, well, there are increases of hardware complexities for some of them, except compiler techniques and smaller cache. Those are very simple. But also you have to say some of them also have side effect. For example, smaller and simpler cache gonna have higher miss rate, right? Pipeline cache gonna have longer hit time. Okay. All right, that's all for this lecture. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions.